right, so here's a high-level overview of best practices and tips and tricks while you're using Voia. For tracking, tracking is the core of our technology, and you're only ever as good as you're tracking. So when you open up the app and you start shooting for the first time, make sure you start in a frame that's full body of your subject. Even if you're moving into an over the shoulder or a close up, start full body, hit record, get something locked in, and then move in for your shot. You'll thank me for it. Scale. Setting scale from your talent to your environment is really important in a virtual setting. So what you want to do is set the scale before you start rolling. How do you do that? Well, pull up your environment, get your talent in the frame, and start moving around to see how they feel. Move a little closer, move a little wider, make sure your angle and scale are aligned before you start rolling. Once they are, hit record and start moving. Okay, on to occlusion. So when you're in a virtual environment, just like in a video game, you can walk through objects, you can kind of get inside of a wall. Well, same thing when you're filming in a virtual environment. So make sure when you're filming, you're not inside of a wall when you're filming, because you will be able to see through it when you're watching the preview, but when you go to render, it's gonna make that wall in front of you solid. So always be aware of objects in the environment, making sure that your talent is walking around them just like they would in the real world, and make sure that wherever you're filming from, it isn't occluded by something after you go and hit render. Repeatability. So when you launch a location in the app, it's gonna spawn you into the same place each and every time. So you wanna make sure after you work out your blocking and you know your talent's runway and where they're going, you wanna open it in the same location in your physical environment each and every time. That's gonna make sure it gives you the same angle, the same maneuverability all day long. Staying steady. If you're shooting with an iPhone alone on set, make sure you're keeping in mind how you want to accomplish your cinematic vision. On bigger sets with heavier cameras, that's a big part of the image. Whether it's on the shoulder, being flown on a steady cam, on a dolly, that weight, physical weight, is lacking when you're just shooting on an iPhone alone. So some tips and tricks would be add weight to your rig or use a gimbal. External camera systems. This one is really exciting. So you can use your iPhone along with a classic camera system like an Alexa or Red, and you can use that Alexa or Red image as your plate. You get the same functionality that you would with the Voia app, but it's a different tier. So some best practices there are you want to mount your iPhone pretty much as a witness camera directly over the focal plane of that main unit. So you want to align it as close as you can as the camera body and to the sensor, and you want to match your headroom just with basic tilt. An iPhone has basically a 24mm focal length on its camera. So if you're gonna re-lens after the fact, just throw a 24mm prime on that main unit and you're gonna have a 1-to-1 match. Lighting versus relighting. This is gonna come down to personal preference. If you wanna let our AI do the work, light it flat, it's gonna come in, match the environment. If you're looking for a hybrid system, I would recommend lighting it flat and maybe just doing some one-stop accent lights. The more you use our tech, the more familiar you get with it, I think the more you're gonna lean on relighting. Background shooting locations. So a big part of getting that nice clean mask is keeping your background clean as well. So ideally you're in a solid color location with white or gray as your backdrop. The cleaner your background, the cleaner your mask. So maybe a few light stands here and there in frame is okay. You start shooting into the grip truck, maybe take it back to the studio. Fixing it in post. All right, so after the fact in Blender, you kind of have ultimate flexibility, and adjustments can be made with lighting and background and objects in the scene, art direction. So don't put too much weight on it while you're shooting. Get the lay of the land, make sure your characters aren't walking through tables or you're shooting through walls, and then focus on telling the story. Physical object interaction. So in a virtual environment, talent can walk through a wall, they can walk through a table. Just verify up front that your talent knows the layout of the land, your crew knows the layout of the land, and you're not walking through things you're not supposed to be. If you want to have objects in your scene and talent interacting with them, some best practices would be have them kind of keep it close to their chest. For right now, the mask works better when it's focusing on the outside of the body, not doing detail work. So if you want to have somebody pick up their golden goose egg, have them bring it up to camera right in front of their body. That way, you know you've got a clean shot. Blender environments. If you're bringing your own environment to Voia, you want to try to keep the scenes as optimized as possible. That means getting maximum quality from the minimum required poly count and texture resolution. You don't want to overload the system when you're trying to tell your story.